I hope you're already set up for your AI search experiences from all the conversations today and yesterday. So without further ado, let's me do the quick intro about myself. I am Korenugin. I am a director of product here at SRNT. I've been in D&D SaaS for over 10 years, but also I did digital marketing for about 3 years at an agency, which kind of helps me understand the day-to-day issues that you guys are facing. And SEO ranking has been around for about 12 years now. It all started really all the way back in 2013 with just 5 people working on a very simple rank tracking tool. But the thing is that our vision and the dream was always much, much bigger. We were working on is we want to create a future where growing your businesses online with the tech is much easier than it is today. And that's why today we are over 200 people strong. We have 8 global hubs across the world, and we offer one of the most comprehensive SEO platforms. On top of that, recently we started offering 3 more products, where one of them is a social media management platform, Lanabit. The other one is our data product. They will help you build your own research in a matter of seconds, if you're connecting that with MCP to ChatGPT, for example. And our AI search visibility solution, SE Visible. The reason we're working on these 3, I think, should be fairly evident to all of you with all the previous conversations, but we're also gonna go over live scenarios to you over the coming minutes. The topic of today's talk, as you see it on the screen, what drives visibility in LLM-powered search in the US. But rather, instead of focusing on mentions, on you getting a mentions of your brand in ChatGPT and AI mode, what we looked into is what are the key factors that are making your brand, your website, becoming a source or the answer. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. You might have already seen or heard or read a lot of our previous research articles. So the past 2 years, we've published over a few dozen of research pieces, and this is our latest one. And just for fun of it, so it's more relatable, I decided to make the focus of the stock the shoes us. Let's imagine that we are developing a company who's selling shoes, and through that lens, we're going to be experiencing this talk. You know the drill, how it used to be just a decade ago. Your parapet buyer, what it does, it goes to Google, it types in the kind of shoes they're looking for. Your goal is to make sure that your website appears in top 10, ideally in top 3. But the thing is that over the past 5 years, or even the last 2 years, that's no longer the case, with many, many things impacting that. But before I show what are the things that are impacting that, maybe you can help me out and show me that you're alive and listening and tell me what is that one word that in the industry that we both heard the most over the last 3 years. Come on, Peter. AI. Yeah, exactly. AI, yeah. That beast has been driving the hype train over the past 2 years for sure and created a lot of change for all of us. Yeah, one more, I promise just the last question. And what is that prediction that you probably all heard the most over the past 2 years or maybe even more? SEO is dead. Yeah, that's right. SEO is dead. But honestly, it's not the case because all of us are still here, right? And we have our jobs. So let's figure out what's really going on. The thing is that we at SRanking, we've been doing deep research on LLM search capabilities over the past 2 years, ever since Google has introduced their them called search narrative experiences, that what we now know as data overviews. And when OpenAI introduced their GPT Search, back then we'll also run a research on that. And now we have one of the most comprehensive data sets on AI search evolution and trends today. And what we're going to go through is some of the caveats of what we learned. So let's start with the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people are concerned and just thinking if it's even worth investing into AI, because Google is still so big and organic, right? What you can see here is that, yeah, it still owns 93% of all of the organic traffic, and maybe it dropped like 1.75% over the past 2 years, but it's still the big one and the only one that we should care about, probably. Yes, ChatGPT and Perplexity, they've made some gains, and others too, but they seem modest. Although, if you dive deeper, what happens is when websites rank higher in AI search, what would happen is their direct traffic is going to grow too, and it's going to become much higher quality. And what happens there is typically people, when they get their AI answers, they go through it as research, right? And so once they've made up their mind, they'll just open your website directly. That's why you won't necessarily see that in referrals. But also, since organic doesn't tell the full story, we have to figure out how do we find out like what really matters, like why do we focus there still? And these numbers over here might help you a bit in understanding like what is the volume of queries at least per day. And Google is still the beginner. They have about 80% of all the queries. And even if we consider the fact that in AI search, roughly half of all the prompts make the question like format that is more related to search, AI search is already at 10% of all the search queries, which is big. It is something that I care about. So let me make my case to you. We as Ranking believe, and probably something that you've heard from a lot of other speakers, is that the internet right now is experiencing fragmentation in search like never before. And this new wave of personalization and change is obviously powered by AI and AI agents. There's one more thing that we have to add to this, is that yes, over the past, I guess, 5 years, maybe a bit more, search has also been changing because a lot of people started searching on YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms where the content is different, where the user-generated content, probably they feel like it's more relatable. And the teams behind LLMs, they know that damn well too. That's why you see here these numbers where YouTube is one of the most cited websites by both ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google AI overviews. And when it comes to ChatGPT specifically, it loves all kinds of user-generated content, including YouTube, but also Reddit that's so big right now, Wikipedia, TikTok, and others. And with the fairly recent news of Instagram making their stories and reels search indexable, I guess there's no other way for us but to admit the fact that we have to expand our inbound efforts from traditional SEO to social and AI. Basically, what the slide tells you is that we no longer have that luxury of a straightforward algorithm where we can only care about Google. Right now, we got to make sure that we're visible where our potential buyers are, which is traditional search. Yeah, it's still big and it's important, but also LLM chats and also social and AI agents. That's everything that we should care about. I guess now with that set up, we can approach the how. So what do we really do? How we sell these goddamn shoes? I'm gonna answer that in a moment. Just a bit about the methodology of what we did here. We have picked about 1 million of different content keywords, and we ran them through ChatGPT and AI Node. For each response, we took all of the sources, which is like a few million different sources, and we ran them against a panel of more than 50 different on-page and off-page factors. After that, we applied SHAP method. Essentially, this is like a machine learning technique, which is called Shapley Edited Explanations method. What it does is it helps us assess the relative weight of each factor against your likelihood of becoming a source for ChatGPT or AI mode. And so each factor has a relative weight, which we're going to dive into. And then there's also going to be a bonus section. We've explored the volatility of AI mode, or basically how unstable it is in returning different domains and URLs for the same query. All of this data has been prepared exclusively for BrightonSEO US, and it's fresh as a middle of the hours. This slide is essentially it. I guess it might be a bit hard to read, but these are the top 20 factors on page and off page for ChatGPT in AI mode. We could have called it a day right here, I guess. But yeah, I suggest that you take a quick picture and we dive into what are these messy hearts actually mean. Let's start with the unique taste of AI mode. AI mode, it has a few parameters, a few factors that are unique to it. I'm gonna name them too, so it's a bit easier. The first one at the top that's highlighted is brand search volume. This is our proxy for your brand mentions overall. And what we believe is that AI mode basically cares about your brand being talked about. That's actually something unique to AI mode as opposed to ChatGPT. There are also a few factors here that you might have already heard of, which is content freshness. These how recently your content has been updated or published is a really big deal to AI mode. And then there's also one more piece, or there are two. The first one is the presence in top 10 and Google is obviously a big deal for AI mode. And another one here that's interesting is that Google is focusing on a individual page, backlink profile, page trust, and all of that. While to the conscious with ChatGPT, who's more focused on your overall domain trust, on your overall backlink profile. That's like one of the big findings here, I'd say. Another thing that's unique about ChatGPT compared to AI mode is that it's more sensitive to the technical factors, to your website speed. The names and metrics are essentially like first contentful paint or your overall speed index. These are the things that are unique to ChatGPT. One more thing that it takes into account that it did not make to the task for AI mode is your presence on review platforms, surprisingly. There are also quite a few factors that are present for both platforms, what are valued buried underneath. I've kind of already started covering this. You can see here that the total number of referring domains is a much bigger deal for ChatGPT compared to any. So back to a point of ChatGPT, we're focusing on your overall website, backlink profile, domain trust, and AI mode focusing more on the individual page. Here, what's interesting about AI mode is that the top two item there is the content length. AI mode really loves it when your content is rich, when there's a really long article. So basically, long reads are back and kicking for AI. That's the thing I wanted to say. Most of the factors are shared across these systems and are valued very similarly. So to make all of these factors a bit easier to comprehend and act upon, because I know this might not even be visible to all of you, we assembled them into 4 categories with a few tips for how you up with that. The first 2 categories, we coupled them together. They're your domain power and authority and brand power. Essentially, what's paired here is your overall total domain traffic, including that direct traffic that we talked about. It's your mentions across the web, and it's your backlink profile. So these are the factors. To put it on a slide that's a bit easier to read, there it is. Essentially, the more your brand is out there in a variety of channels, the higher the chances of you getting cited, becoming a source for both ChatGPT and AI mode. What we as ranking believe is that to succeed with that, you want to make sure that your SEO, brand, and social teams work together. That's what we do ourselves. They had, for us in our team, SEO, brand, and social teams, they have a shared set of KPIs that they work on together. And all of the work from technical SEO to content to social to PR is all part of a single motion. And that's the way you succeed in AI search. There's obviously a less fancy category, less innovative, that doesn't require any kind of organizational change to succeed, which is technical SEO. Again, to make it easier to read, just 3 basic recommendations. You want to make sure that your website is fast, or basically pay attention to core web vitals, or use Lighthouse or something that will tell you. Getting in the green there is essentially what you want. Number 2, you want to make your URLs user-friendly. So include keywords, make them human readable. That's something that both ChatGPT and AI will care about. And number 3 is you want to take care of the title and description, because both title and description are the first grammars that will be taken by these systems into account when they're evaluating which source to take. This might sound a bit controversial, but the thing is that we didn't find any significant impact of schema or LLMs on you becoming a source in AI mode or ChatGPT. Maybe that's not the case per mentions, but for citations, this is definitely not as important. The area is new, right? It's AI search for your old but bold technical SEO methods are still there. And still your trusty friend, don't neglect it. And the last but not least is content optimization. I've already talked about how for AI mode, content length is a much bigger deal than it is for ChatGPT, but then they also have a lot in common. They all care about you covering all the topics and subtopics within a single article really deeply. They all care about your content being fresh. They all want you to have clear questions in headings and even more clear answers in the content. And for AI mode specifically, ranking in the top 10 is a big deal too. When it comes to keywords in the content, this is not as important as in traditional SEO, right? So just an exact keyword match is not gonna cut it. You want to use the query finale. There are plenty of tools out there, and you want to make sure that you cover as many different variations of these questions that people are asking within the content. And that bonus part I was talking about, AI mode volatility. So what it means is essentially when you put the same prompt into AI mode 3 times in a row, the sources are going to be different. And the numbers that you're seeing, like 85.3%, that means that you three times you put on the same query, 85% of the domains are going to be different in the results. So the sources they're using are going to be very different. When you're searching on the US level, which is not really what a lot of people would do, with the US level ID, not a particular SEO, the dominant volatility is crazy. Like just 15% domains, not even URLs, domains stay the same. When you compare the metrics between 3 different cities, you will see the volatility drop to 75%. And if you look within just a single city,
you see the 65% number. And only if you add the actual name of the location into the query, downline volatility drops to like, I guess, more or less acceptable 44%. What we believe is happening here is Google is still learning from us, from people who search, what kind of content provides better response. And they're pulling from a huge range of sources depending on the location you're in. And so what you want to do with this is not just focus on having some kind of backlinks, but also focus on getting PR and support locally. Because when your customers are going to be in different cities, in different states, and Google is going to be calling from a different list of domains in different locations. On top of it, Google really trusts their own content more than anything. And roughly 9% or more than 9% of all the links, all the sources in AI Node are Google business profiles, Google Maps profiles. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that yours is looking sharp to get your likelihood of getting cited high. I guess that's it with the numbers. And let's just sum it up really quickly. There are 4 categories of factors that you want to care about when it comes to optimizing for AI search. There's domain authority and brand power. Essentially your total traffic, the direct traffic, right? What is your backlink profile? How many good pages you had, right? How many mentions you have across the web, including review platforms on social. There's obviously technical SEO, how fast the website is, how well your URLs are optimized. And then obviously content optimization with those longer articles or rich in content. Yeah, the internet is obviously going through a lot of change right now. Search is changing, the way people search is changing. And the attitude, or rather not the attitude, but what we want to do, to paraphrase a famous marketeer, Seth Godin, AI is not a threat for us, it's an opportunity. Survivor is not the goal, selling shoes is. I hope if you don't mind me butchering the phrase like this, but that's the mentality that we'll all need to have to win in these new AI search era. If you guys are interested in how we use SD ranking schools to get the data for this research, or how we can help you navigate these changes, meet us at the booth number 21 that's right outside the door. Hit me up on LinkedIn. You can also find this research that we've just published and many others on our blog if you don't have the time to meet us in person. Thank you everybody for coming.